Hi, I'm Mason Hopkins. This is the second part of my video series about cognitive dissonance in fun home. If you haven't seen the first part yet, make sure to click right here. In this video, I'm going to examine the genre and form of the novel in terms of its conflict with itself. So what is fun home? Is it a graphic novel, a memoir, a comic? And what do we mean when we use any of these distinctions? There's a lot of discussion and arguing that surrounds this question. Alison Bechdell's work doesn't fit neatly into just one category, and it often uses the form against itself. Although it is in comic form, with graphic images accompanying text, it also seems to be a memoir that remembers her father. By almost fictionalizing and making fantastic the memories of her childhood in a supposed non-fiction text, she blurs and crosses lines in a type of media that utilizes such strong and hard lines to differentiate between actions. This blurring of binary lines is of course what Alison and her father do consistently through the graphic memoir. Even if they represent themselves differently at certain points in time, they both challenge norms and expectations of their respective genders. And a younger Bruce is seen in a photograph wearing a woman's bathing suit. And Bruce's sexual identity doesn't fit into the plotted schemes of just heterosexual or just homosexual. Bechdel is able to complicate the medium that she works in by making her story about working outside of gender binaries, while working in a genre obsessed with rigid and strict structures to build plot. Although Bechdel writes about personal trauma, the focus of the graphic form is usually on large fight scenes or even the destruction of war. So it's disruptive to our imagining of comics, and it fights against the stereotype that comics have to be violent, grandiose, and pompous just because they can be. But that still doesn't answer the question of what fun home is. If this is both a graphic novel and a memoir, is it both fiction and autobiography? Cognitive dissonance, I guess. I'm calling cognitive dissonance. There are many different narrative lines that are drawn in the book. There's the voiceover, that's the text about or within but separate from the panel action, the dialogue that the characters have, and obviously the illustrations that take up the most physical space in the book. These illustrations and other representations of images we'll call nonverbal. The narrative text that guides the plot along and the nonverbal elements often contradict each other, because although the narration can move around in time and space, it is literally fixed in a linear structure by nature. You're never going to know information before it's told to you. But the nonverbal can move around freely and without any explanation. While Bechdel discusses the books on her father's shelves, the panels jump from Alison in her father's study with her mother and her college girlfriend as they prepare for the funeral, to a scene where Bruce is reading in his study when Alison is just a young girl. As I've mentioned, the text and images often tell the reader vastly different and inconsistent things. Take for instance how metaphor is used in the book. You'll notice that the comic form has allowed Bechdel to use figurative language in varying ways. If a metaphor is being drawn out in text, the target domain, or the tenor, of that comparison is played out in images. When Bechdel compares her father to the Minotaur from Greek mythology, she illustrates her enraged father shattering a plate onto their kitchen floor. This image complements the text by showing a real event that the metaphor is referring to. It is, in a sense, paratext. But in narration that follows that scene, she describes that her father was always there when she was a child. And underneath this text, she illustrates how Bruce would force independence on the children by distancing himself. This juxtaposition is explained when she goes on to say that even before her father's death, I ached as if he were already gone. While growing up, Alison doesn't trust the words that she puts in her diary. Because she has the ability to see the world around her, she doesn't trust even her own words. She tells us that she felt awkward on the 2 occasions that she ever saw her parents show any affection towards one another. She knows that they're supposed to be married and in love, but what she sees makes her think otherwise. And although her mother tells Alison that her father bought a beer for a boy who wasn't old enough and must go to court, she learns later that the real accusation dared not speak its name. Because Alison saw boy after boy with her father while she was growing up, she doubts what she's told, and any doubts that the reader has about the text are either denied or confirmed with her images. So Bechdel is actually able to use contrast and contradictions in the graphic form to move her story along. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy this series, make sure to like it, share it, and keep the discussion going in the comment section below. Click over to watch part 3, where we discuss the house, and how Bruce is both the public and private spheres of their family unit. See ya! Wouldn't want to be a... maybe. No one knows.